Hello. Thank you for watching the intro video. If you actually watched it, this will be, I guess, one of the videos in the series or playlist or whatever it is that it's going to end up being. But kind of just starting to wade into the topic of, what I've seen over the last 5 years, and try not to get into a rant and into QuickBooks hating, because I can easily get into that, but I'm going to try not to. Um, but kind of just touch on some things that I've seen over the last couple of years. Not maybe the full 5 years, but just or everything that I've seen, because I've seen a lot of different stuff. But if you're if you have a small business and you're using QuickBooks, or you are a bookkeeper that's doing QuickBooks, or you're thinking about, hey, I need to get QuickBooks because they're selling me that I can do it all myself, and it's only going to cost me $75 and I can handle all this, and I would just tell you that you really need to consider the other options out there. You really need to consider that what you're using is not the right tool for the job. There's been a lot of different ways that we've explained it over the years. But it's kind of like Intuit sold you a hammer and told you that you could build a house. And that's just not the case. QuickBooks, for the most part, does not do accounting very well. And then the people that do bookkeeping for QuickBooks will tell you that it's just garbage in, garbage out. Well, even QuickBooks itself, being an accountant, first of all, is not quick. It's very cumbersome. It's very painful. It's very hard to use QuickBooks to do bookkeeping, to do accounting, because to do it right, you have to have about 4 different windows open. They have to be split screen. You have to have your chart of accounts on one side. You have to have your balance sheet and profit and loss in different windows. You usually have to have your bank transactions there. Then you have to look at your reclassify tool. Then you have to look at your journal entry tool. And a lot of times you're even switching between a lot of those different things, on top of other stuff. So it's just very cumbersome. And so, a lot of things that I've seen over the years are just, they hand, a client will hand me a set of books saying, here it is, my wife's sister's brother, cousin, best friend, girlfriend, mom, aunt does the books for me, and they're perfect. They used to do bookkeeping 20 years ago, and, nothing against them. Maybe they did. But I get a file and it's got all kinds of negative bank accounts, negative credit cards, assets are missing. There's some depreciation on there. There's, the full truck or auto payment is being classified as an expense when the principal can't be expensed. Mortgages are on there. Personal expenses are on there. It's just a disaster. And I've seen it from all across the board. The best I've ever really seen are mainly only a couple adjustments. Maybe something is categorized in the wrong place. Maybe something is on the profit and loss when it should be on the balance sheet. Maybe, things have just been kind of rolling over from year after year after year, and no adjustments have been made every single time there's a tax return done. That's the best that I've seen it. And the worst I've seen it is just absolutely completely unusable. Every account is negative. Nothing has been done in years. There's been no reconciliations. You go down the chart of accounts and it's like, do you owe Chase bank account 30 grand? No. You have an Amex card here on negative 30 grand. Does Amex owe you 30 grand? No. Do you still have this 1992 Tacoma? No. Did you really spend all this money on, your mortgage for your business? Oh, I don't have a mortgage for my business. Well, then why is it on here? Like, I've just seen all of it. And so what I'm really trying to get across in this series and these videos is that, if you're a small business owner and you're thinking about, well, hey, I could save money, I could just do QuickBooks, I need to do it myself. Like, oh, they offer me so many things. I could put I could take a picture of my receipt and blah, 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 and it's just going to handle everything for me. And now they got AI agents and, all this different stuff. And I could get a bank account there and they're going to do my payroll. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to get a solo 401k, can you call anyone at QuickBooks and have them set that up on your payroll? Do you know how to properly close out all your distributions to retain earnings? Do you know how to put in your fixed assets properly and make sure that you don't expense something that actually needs to be capitalized and depreciated? Do you know how to properly do your sales and your returns and have your contra equity accounts and your contra revenue accounts? Do you know how to have your contra asset accounts and your contra liabilities? Do you know how to do amortization? Do you know how to properly do interest? How are you going to handle credit card rewards? Are you going to be able to properly account for that? What about separately stated items in an S corporation, donations and stuff like that? Do you know where to put those at? Do you know how to properly account for those on your balance sheet? And most of the time, the answer to those is going to be no. And those are going to be some of the introductory questions. So all I'm really trying to say and get across with the beginning of talking about this QuickBooks is that I'm going to try not to focus everything on QuickBooks, but I have to start there because that's where most of the people know accounting. That is, unfortunately, their introduction to bookkeeping and accounting is they think that QuickBooks is the thing, and I'm here to tell you that it's not. It really isn't. And I've done it for years and years and years, and I've lost clients over QuickBooks. I've pissed a lot of people off because of telling them that their books are the wrong way. I've created a lot of discord amongst families because of books, and I'm just trying to eliminate that. I'm trying to get rid of that because I've had so many people that have come to me that call themselves bookkeepers. They're like, "Will you please do the books? I'm tired of doing it for my husband. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I don't want to let him down, and I don't want to tell him that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm tired of just doing this. I need my time back." Like I've seen so many things over the years, and so I just want to kind of start by saying that and saying that I'm not coming from a place that I hate QuickBooks or I hate Intuit. I've seen it done for so long that I know that there's almost the impossibility of it being done right. And even myself, if I was to sit there and do it, I'd spend hours and eventually I would get upset and just, plug things and have to do adjustments because I'm tired of wasting time switching back between, 5 different places to do one thing inside QuickBooks. So what does this really mean, though, and what does it mean for you is that I'm trying to offer an alternative. I'm trying to offer an alternative where you can hand the books off to me. You have someone that's doing it on their own their own accounting software, their own bookkeeping software, that I built it myself, built it as a CPA for a CPA to be able to do books and to be able to do things the right way for a tax return. Because that's the main thing, right? Is you're either going to be doing your finances for a tax return or maybe getting a loan. And maybe, eventually down the road, you'll get big enough to where you have investors or you have other people and users, what we call like users of the financial statements. But until then, taxes is going to be your biggest thing. So I'm going to go over like in a couple different videos. I'm not going to bash on QuickBooks, but I'm really going to go over some of the things that I see, some of the things that are wrong, and just why I'm doing things differently and why no one really tells you that you're doing things wrong. Because it causes pain. There's things that you don't want to hear and about your books, and a lot of times people don't want to hear that. So I'm going to talk about a couple different things, different ways to that QuickBooks could be wrong, and in hopes that maybe you take this information, and if you are dead set on doing it yourself, you go and look at these things in your books. You ask your bookkeeper about them, or you contact me and see about me bringing on your business to do your books for you, so you don't have to worry about this anymore, and that you have someone that's doing it the right way. So, and I'm going to end with a quick example of. I lost a client recently because I was, doing their QuickBooks. They insisted that I do their QuickBooks, and they came to me with every single one of their accounts on the balance sheet wrong. Every single one of them was wrong. Every single checking account had the wrong amount on there. They had accounts on there that haven't existed in years. They had assets that didn't exist. They had loans that they really had in real life but weren't on the books. Their books were a disaster. Their chart of accounts for their profit and loss was over 70 or something items. Just everything was split out into 5 different ways. Like, how many times can you categorize paper? Paper for office, paper for client, paper for maintenance, paper for this. And it's just like, that's not needed. So I really tried to get this client to understand that their books were, a mess, to say it gently, and to try to clean up their chart of accounts. And they were very sticklers on doing it the way that they've always done it because they thought that it was right. and they were paying more in taxes because of it, because they had no idea what their true taxable income was. They didn't have proper reporting on a tax return because they weren't properly reporting the revenue that they were receiving. They didn't have any balance sheet items correct, so they had no way to actually see what their proper retained earnings was. Because on an S corporation tax return, there's retained earnings, but there's also a accumulated adjustment account, the AAA, and distributions planned to that account, in terms of taxation and different things. And I won't go into that on this video. But just to kind of round out my example of this client is that they were doing a lot of manual entries in there, a lot of things that were doubled up, a lot of things that were very wrong inside the books. And there were only, a couple ways to really handle it. And it was either I was going to have to go in there and chase down every single manual entry to either delete it or edit it, or add in my own manual entries to offset theirs, or to do a journal entry to do a bulk kind of categorization to remove a lot of their journal entries, or to do the adjustment in the reconciliation. And because QuickBooks is so slow and cumbersome and hard to really do proper accounting, I chose to use the reconciliation adjustment, and they didn't want me to do that. And so they got really upset that I was doing it that way, and they left. And, that's fine. But I think that ultimately what I got out of that situation was that I'm no longer doing any QuickBooks because it's just not worth it. And so I'm hoping to try to get that message across that if you're doing your QuickBooks yourself, you're kind of cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself out of proper deductions. You're cheating yourself out of, higher fees come tax time because of all the, adjustments and cleanup that has to be done. And you're cheating yourself on having proper books and records. And, bookkeeping is not data entry only. It's a lot more than that. And then on top of that, accounting is not bookkeeping. Accounting is, I would say above and beyond bookkeeping in so many ways, because the best I've ever seen are people that do their books for people. I would say the best bookkeepers I've ever seen still don't know accounting and tax. And they don't understand that, listen, man, you can't have $178,000 of leasehold improvements as expenses. So here's a client that thinks that they're only showing this amount of net income, but in reality, the net income is a lot higher because of the leasehold improvements have to be, capitalized and expense. Now on tax, in that situation, I could do Section 179 and expense it all. So the tax situation ended up kind of the same, but they were expecting something that wasn't true in the books. So I'm hoping to create some videos here where I don't just sit and ramble about how much I don't like QuickBooks and how I'm no longer doing QuickBooks because of all the problems it causes for tax, for records, for family, for, my wife is doing my QuickBooks and she really doesn't know what she's doing. And then for, the people out there that are selling themselves as bookkeepers but only know how to use one software, which is QuickBooks, and don't know accounting. And they're getting paid way over what they're worth, and then they're charging way over what they're worth. And then you're not, you're paying for something that you don't even know that you're not getting correct. So I'm going to do some videos here about like different things that I see in the books. Hopefully not make them too long, but make each one of them about maybe different things that I've seen over the years and go over maybe different ways to fix them. But I'm not going to be doing any type of QuickBooks how-tos, QuickBooks cleanups. I'm not going to go into anybody's QuickBooks. I'm not going to do that. And that's what I wanted to kind of start and preface this with, is that accounting is not QuickBooks. Accounting is something that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years and can be done on a piece of paper. If you gave me your bank statements right now, I could sit down and do all your books and create a chart of accounts, create a balance sheet and a profit and loss, and be able to do the tax returns off a piece of paper. But what QuickBooks has caused is so much problems in the accounting field because people think that they could just do QuickBooks themselves, or they can hire someone to do data entry and handle their QuickBooks. And then they're not getting what they actually need to have at the end of the day. And I've seen so many job postings for people paying anywhere from $30,000 to $70,000 a year just to sit in the house and do QuickBooks. And it's like, listen, man or woman, small business owner, I could do your books starting at $500 a month and use my own software that I've created myself out of 20,000 hours of experience that can do all your books for you. And then on top of that, I can build out tax planning and strategy and do, basically like CFO work on top of it. But we could actually go in and dive into your numbers. We could build, dashboards, KPIs, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I made this video really long, but I just wanted to kind of start by saying that, I'm not coming from a place where, I've done one person's QuickBooks and I'm saying, I don't like QuickBooks. I've just seen, I don't, over the years, how many books have I seen that they just get worse year to year to year to year, and you tell them things and you try to teach them, and they just keep coming back with just terrible books. And one biggest thing that I've also seen too is that these bookkeepers out there and these in-house bookkeepers that handle QuickBooks, that they don't properly do adjustments or journal entries, so that when a tax return comes and there's adjustments that they need to be made, they never end up back in the books. So these problems just roll on for years and years, and then like you get these books. It's like, man, listen, I've been doing your tax return for years, and the books just keep worse and worse, and like I have to charge more and more and more because of how many adjustments and how many things I got to chase down. Now I got to get every single bank statement from you because none of the balances are correct. And then when I look at them, I see like all this personal spending in here that you're expensing. Like, do you really want to do that on a tax return? Like, this could be just thrown out. So again, I'm not going to try to make all my videos into rants. I'm not going to try to just hate on QuickBooks. I don't hate it. I just think that QuickBooks came in and really ruined the industry. And I'm really trying to develop something that's different, a different avenue. And yeah, at first, it might seem like paying me is, well, I'll just go do it myself. And I'm going to give some options to do it yourself, spreadsheets and tools and things like that, and try to give you some tips and tricks on what to do maybe in QuickBooks without actually showing you it, because I'm not going to teach you. I'm not an Intuit salesperson, right? Like I'm not working for them. So, but I'm mainly just going to try to show you that there is a different way out there, that by hiring me, you can get everything that you thought you were getting with QuickBooks, and you could get it, for real and not just be sold, something that it's not. So anyway, that's what's to come. There'll be a lot of different videos, and then eventually I'm going to start talking about a lot of different subjects on actual accounting, AI bookkeeping, the future of that, different things like puzzle.io, kick.io, the different AI that's in books and stuff like that. And there's just a lot coming here, so bear with me. I know this one here is probably pretty boring, talking about QuickBooks, but it's just it lays the groundwork, because the chances are that if you're doing it yourself, or even if you hire somebody, it's not right. And I'm not saying that I don't make mistakes as well. I'm just saying that the mistakes are costing you. You think you're getting a deal, but you're not. So with me, though, I do provide a deal. I do provide value because I've seen all the errors. I've created software that eliminates the errors. For instance, like I have instant credit card matching. In QuickBooks, you have to try to match up your credit card payments. Do you know how many credit cards I've seen negative on the balance sheet that don't have the correct balance of the credit cards? Do you know how many times I've seen payments go to all random different places? I've seen sales be affected by it. I've seen it's just been a mess over the last couple of years, and I think that's what's really pushed me to make these videos, but also position my business to be 100% not QuickBooks. So bear with me. We'll actually have some good content, not just QuickBooks bashing, but I wanted to lay that groundwork. So appreciate you watching this. Thank you.